Greetings, Poke fans. Welcome back to the most relaxing channel on Pokemon content anywhere in the YouTube universe. This is Poke Relaxing. Today I wanted to talk about Japanese Pokemon because crazy things are happening in the market right now, in the English market, for Japanese cards, which you probably know because there's just been a lot of content over the weekend about a lot of sets going out of stock on Pokemon Center. A lot of products shooting up like 20-30% in a 1, 2, 3 day period. Yeah, I haven't done any videos on that, but if you guys like those kinds of videos in this format, you just let me know. I'll be happy to kind of do like a little market update or something like that on this channel, since I do, keep pretty close tabs on things. But one thing I will talk about just to kind of set up this video is a general market kind of topic. Over here is Twilight Masquerade pricing from TCG Player, and in my last video, and then in a post that I put, just like a text post that I put on the channel, I talked about Twilight Masquerade being close to selling out at the Pokemon Center, the official Pokemon store, online store, and I indicated that when that happens in recent history, it causes the price of a box to go up very rapidly. So I think my post was probably like right about here, right before this big spike you see here, and then all day today we've been seeing upward movement on these boxes as they sold out yesterday from Pokemon Center. We can see the sales here, and there have been some, I think, actually no, it's not going to show them, but they're sort of kind of hovering in that 170, 175 range right now. The cheapest box you can get is 175 shipped. There was a high sale price of $199.95. I was trying to find that, but sometimes they don't show it because it's too recent. It might have been like an older one from the last time this spiked, like 2 months ago. Actually, there it is. So it's actually from yesterday. So that guy jumped the gun a little bit on this product, but I mean, it's gone in a day and a half or whatever. It's gone from below 160 now to 172 on the market price, but lowest you can get it is 175 shipped. So some of the things going on in the marketplace are fairly predictable. Now everybody's sort of wondering, what's the next set that's going to sell out at the Pokemon Center? And there are, it's not widely available, but there are software programs that allow you to check the stock level, how many units they have remaining for sale at Pokemon Center for any particular product. So a lot of, sort of discussion groups on Discord or, like YouTube discussion comment pages will talk about stock levels of certain products, and if you like that info, I'm happy to kind of mention that sort of stuff when it comes across my radar. But yeah, people are watching to see what goes out of stock next, and basically the next thing that I think is going to have some repercussions on pricing for an entire set probably is the last, decent box of Crown Zenith, which is I think it's like a figurine box or figure box. There's like a little figure in it. Those are selling, hundreds of units a day, and there's I think less than 1,000 available as of yesterday. So those will be gone fairly soon, and when that happens, there's not going to be an easy place to buy, $5.50 a pack Crown Zenith anymore. So people are going to be left to the open market. We know what happens when that occurs. Prices tend to shoot up. So, in any event, this sort of exploding U.S. market had me looking to the Japanese market for maybe a little bit more sanity and some opportunity, because I have been sort of dabbling in the Japanese market for a couple of months now. Started off when I bought, what did I buy? I bought 2 different boxes. This one, well, actually, this little sort of collection of booster boxes you see, of these regular booster boxes. These are the called high class booster boxes. They're a slightly different format, larger pack size and fewer packs, and a smaller box size. But anyways, these ones you see here are the regular booster box in Japanese Pokemon, and I bought most of those in a lot that was for sale for, gosh, I'm trying to think what that was. I don't know, maybe like a 4th of July sale or some kind of holiday sale that I found online. And they had a deal where it was like 8 or 9 different boxes. I basically have one of each left, minus one, which I opened all the packs of, or put them in a product I will show you, which is a mix of Japanese pack, sampler pack. So anyways, basically I ordered like 2 of those batches, and then one of the boxes from one of those the boxes from one of those batches, I took the packs out, put them into a little sampler of Japanese products. Plus I added some sets that I had bought then after that, which I'll talk about, which were, I think, Stellar Miracle and Paradise Dragona. So I'll show you a little bit more about what's in there for those who are interested. I have no idea what my pricing is on those. That's the only thing holding me back from posting them, but I'll put them up. But in any event, that was my first exposure to Japanese stuff. I think those boxes were like $40 or $45 each in that bundle. So I was like, wow, that seems like, pretty cheap. But didn't really do much with them. Again, opened, some packs of the Obsidian Flame set, which is called like Ruler of the Black Flame, I think. They all have different names. Like this one I'll show you is the English equivalent is Shrouded Fable, but the Japanese set is called Night Wander. So any Japanese speakers I have in my subscriber base, I wonder if this is just Japanese for Night Wanderer, or I know sometimes in Japan they will like transliterate, which means they'll sort of make the English term in sounds made from Japanese characters. I kind of doubt that's how they would do that in this case, but sometimes you see that with brands and product names in Japan. So anyways, I bought those samplers, and I thought I'd like to have a little bit. I'd like to see what these are about. I've opened a good bit. I've also opened a good bit of these, including a video I did on this channel. And so I have some exposure to the cards. The print quality and the quality control on Japanese stuff is known to be superior to what we get in the U.S. So a lot of times you'll have cards that come out in the pack, just really, really beautiful. I can show you a few cards I happen to have here. So these are the Japanese cards. The backs are gold bordered instead of blue like in the U.S. sets, but other than that, the cards, are identical, other than the language and the way that they do the set identifier, of course, is different because the sets have different numbers in Japanese than the U.S. And sometimes a Japanese set like this one only has a part of the US equivalent set, because they will do another set that has the rest of it. So by my notes here, it looks like they split like the Twilight Masquerade content of the US set into 3 boxes. Might have been just 2. I can't find the third one, or maybe I didn't have it. But so you know, you do have to kind of figure that out if you want the equivalent of the English product in Japanese. This is, of course, Terrestrial Festival, which is the most current Japanese set. It's the Japanese equivalent of the coming U.S. set, Prismatic Evolutions, and the energy behind and the excitement from both the market, the sort of investor market, and the collectors, the excitement for Prismatic Evolutions is off the friggin' charts. Again, I could do videos talking about price movements and stuff like that if anybody's interested. But you probably all know, because you tried to pre-order some stuff and it's like dang near impossible. So this is the Japanese equivalent, and the overlap is believed to be exactly the same, except for there's one gold Pikachu that is in this that is not in the English, and there's also basically a special illustration rare. They call it a special art rare in Japanese, but there's one of those cards, which is the most rare card available in Pokemon, and there's one of those of Eevee that's in this set but will not be in the US set. So this is an example of a set where the overlap is basically almost 1-to-1 with the US equivalent. But again, there are other sets where in fact, like Surging Sparks, the current most recent Pokemon set in English is actually 2 sets. In Japanese, it's these 2. So this is Paradise Dragona, and this is Super Electric Breaker, and this one happens to be quite a bit more sought after because it has all the Pikachus that are so valuable, and a number of the other cards that are kind of the drivers of the Surging Sparks set. So that's kind of, how I got exposed to it. At some point after I bought those bundles, I bought like basically 2 cases each of these 2 sets, Paradise Dragona and Stellar Miracle. So this is the first half of Surging Sparks, and then the entirety of Stellar Crown in the US, and opened a box or 2 with the kids, but otherwise just kind of sat on these, and I got a really good price on them. I found a couple months ago a distributor who does offer wholesale pricing. You have to buy case quantity stuff. So anyways, I bought case, basically 2 cases worth of those 2 boxes, and then most recently I bought 2 cases of these 2 sets, which are the 2 hottest sets of the Scarlet and Violet era. And so I've noticed some interesting things. This box, of course, the hottest box in Japanese Pokemon in the Scarlet Violet era, has been a bit of a roller coaster. It's, people were pre-ordering these things before they came out for like $40, $50, which is generally where boxes historically have started off at in Japanese. I think in, US dollars, Pokemon, like MSRP is probably like $30 a box for Japanese stuff, but it is expensive to ship this, and of course, middlemen take their cut. So I think generally boxes were showing up in the US, if they were not, a popular set, for like $40 or so. And this one was pre-ordering for, again, like $45, $50. I think it was a little bit more than normal because people knew, there was a lot of excitement the Pokemon market had generally started to grow and become a bit bubbly. So this was pre-order priced at a little higher than normal, but still $45-50 pretty reasonable. But when this stuff came out, people saw the cards. There was just a ton more excitement about Pokemon by the time this stuff came out, and these things shot up to 60, $70. And I think they reached probably like $90. And then they came back down because Japan did reprint. In Japan, they seem to be much more open and transparent about their reprints. They tell you there's going to be a reprint. They actually reprint, and then they, put the product into the marketplace. So we know a couple of, at least one reprint has happened already that drove the price of these back down. At wholesale, I'll tell you, I'm not restricted in the way that I am, talking about U.S. distribution, but in Japan, my wholesale price, again, I had to buy 2 cases worth, was like $61, and that was at a point where, actually it was like $62. That was at a point where things had really come down off the highs a lot, and I think it was after a wave of reprint that happened. So I listed, and at the time, I think these were selling for like $79 in the market. So that was the spread there. And shortly thereafter, things kind of moved a little bit, and I don't know, they were like at $80 there by the time that I posted these on my website, hotcardboard.com, and I listed them at $74.99. But these are actually now like $88 each. And by the way, I haven't moved that listing, so if you if you want the cheapest box of this stuff available, go check hotcardboard.com and pick that up. I think I might have put 2 up there or something, and I thought I would just give somebody a deal. But yeah, the wholesale price on this stuff now is like $80. But there is, a known reprint on the way. What they don't know is how many boxes will be, printed at that point and distributed. So that will determine, where the pricing of everything goes. And it's a bit of a roller coaster. The movements are very kind of up and down. But it is what it is. That's Japanese stuff for you, at least, current sets. I don't think they've sort of gone back and reprinted, sets that are not current for quite some time. They did, as far as, at least based on what I've seen online, they did do that at one point, like during the pandemic. They basically reprinted like 8 sets at once because the market was so frothy. They wanted to kill that in Japan. In the U.S., they clearly take a different approach, and I think that's a good thing. But Japan is different, and they make decisions differently, over there. So, in any event, I earlier today I was looking at YouTube content on I was just viewing my feed, and there was like 3 videos from 3 different content producers on Japanese Pokemon. One was from PokeNE, which is a very popular YouTuber that has an online channel, and he does a lot of Pokemon stuff himself. And he was basically, I think the moral of his story was like, if you want to be able to sell Pokemon cards in the coming year, you're going to have to get into Japanese, because English is just not possible. To get distribution of U.S. Pokemon stuff is virtually impossible at this point. And I could tell you all the reasons why that is, but that's true. I'm fortunate to have like a little bit of allocation with my distributor, because I've been with them for, half a decade now, and or more. And I bought lots of sports stuff, and I kind of started buying Pokemon stuff at just the right time. So I have a little bit of credibility with them, and a little bit of what they call allocation, which is your ability to get stuff when it comes out, and it's oversold. Anyway, so there was Brian Inney, and then there was like another guy saying that what's happening in the U.S. is with the market exploding is going to impact Japanese market, and these sets are going to be in increasingly high demand because of what's happening in the U.S. And U.S. buyers are going to be demanding more Japanese because they're priced out of English. And then there was another one, I can't remember what, it was somebody I had actually not seen before, but his video showed up in my feed. So anyway, so this got me to thinking, I should probably go back and look. And before the holidays, where you can actually buy Japanese cards because FedEx is not operating for like a week-long period in the first week of Japan. And before that, I was looking to make kind of a larger purchase of stuff because it's so cheap right now that I felt like there's not going to be a better time to stock up on this stuff. And again, if you have a 5-year window, if you look at boxes that are 5-year-old in Japan, they're not as appreciated as the U.S. stuff from 5 years ago, but they're quite appreciated. So again, if you're paying $40 a box, you can buy a lot more of those boxes than you can of U.S. stuff, which even at wholesale back when that was a thing, those were $95 a box, a booster box of U.S. Pokemon cards. And now, of course, they're starting out at like 150, 160, and then shooting off to 200 immediately thereafter. So it's very difficult to get in at a decent level in the U.S. stuff, but Japanese stuff you can get in to these products at a decent level. And for I think most of the sets, they're probably done printing. With new sets coming out, they will probably reprint those until demand is a bit more satiated than it is now. And maybe that will cause crazy things to happen. There was a so 151 is available in Japanese. I don't have any, actually just ordered some, but that stuff kind of went up. I think it was like up to like $200 a booster box, and now it's down to like 100, a little over 100 a booster box. So that's really crashed because of the reprinting. But $200 is kind of nuts for a Japanese booster box. I sort of can't believe it got that high. I think it was very popular in Japan, so there's a lot of kind of scalping and stuff like that going on there, and Pokemon didn't like that, so they took the matter into their own hands, printed a ton more 151. It drove the price of booster boxes down to like $60 there, I think, and now they're sort of rebounded again, but no word of additional reprints on 151. So I don't know, things that are still within shooting range of that $40 per box seem like a pretty safe investment. This stuff that I got a little north of $60 feels like a very safe investment, especially given what we know about prismatic evolution. So I'm not going to buy the boxes that are $200 or $300 from the past, even though maybe they're decent investments. It just feels too risky to me. But I think buying pretty dang close to launch price a lot of these boxes makes a lot of sense to me. So let's take a look at a couple of these sets, because I want to show you. I'll finish my story very quickly, but I saw these videos and I thought, well, boy, I got to go check on the pricing for my distributor in Japan to see kind of where things are at, because I wanted to do this larger order. Well, sure enough, everything was up like 10% or so, which again on a $40 box is not that much, but it's still it's significant. And I thought, geez, I think I see the writing on the wall here, which is that this stuff is not going to be dirt cheap for very long. And so I made a purchase earlier today of kind of the sets that I'm most interested in, including picking up some 151, honestly, because I just thought it would be fun to have. And it's a lot cheaper opening that stuff than the US, which I haven't had any luck with, but maybe Japanese will be a little better. But anyways, this is Super Electric Breaker. Again, it's half of Surging Sparks. That's kind of got most of the more expensive cards in it, including the most expensive card, which is the Pikachu SAR, or SIR in English. You can see, this started very high because there was a lot of, hype around it. They did print a lot of it, and then it dropped very significantly, down to $49 here in early November, and then kind of, I think that restock or reprint got, swallowed up. Things went up. They might have done another reprint here, but since that time, they've kind of been slowly creeping up, and then, now you're seeing a pretty significant jump here in the last, week and a half or so, that I think is probably driven by the fact that the U.S. Surging Sparks booster boxes, which were stagnant for quite a while after getting up to about $200, now those are approaching $250. And I think people are saying, oh boy, I got to go back to the Japanese stuff. So quick look at the set here, and I thought this was instructive because basically what it shows you is that the pricing of the top cards is essentially half, like just almost exactly half of the US equivalents. So the Pikachu EX to about 230, and that's right about 460 to 500 in the US. The Pikachu Gold is 62 here in Japan. I think in US that's about 110, 120. And this Pikachu EX that's $16 here is like 35 in the US. So, the cards are, the singles, at least in this set, are roughly half of the US value. The booster box is, roughly a fourth of the price of the US. So, I've seen the advice before. People say that you shouldn't buy Japanese Pokemon to like hold on to unopened because it doesn't appreciate that well. But you should crack it for singles and then sell those singles, and you probably do pretty well. And again, if you can get, if Surging Sparks is $250 right now, you can get, almost 5 boxes, and these are 30 packs each. So, 150 packs of this stuff for the price of one English booster box. That gives you a lot more chance to get, the hits that you're after compared to opening. I don't want to, by the way, suggest that the packs are one-to-one equivalent. They're definitely not. This is a much smaller amount of cards, but it is more cards, I think. So you get 30 packs, and there's 5 cards each. So that's 150 cards. Again, if you could buy 5 of these, that's like 600 some cards. US is 36 times 10, 360. So you get a ton more cards for the same amount of money. Whether it's enough to make up that 2x, or the 50% sort of price discount on the singles, remains to be seen. But I think having more cards gives you more chance to pick up, the card that you want, rather than having fewer cards in the U.S. set where, we've all opened the booster box where we got, kind of skunked, and it sucks. So anyways, that's Super Electric Breaker. Another one I wanted to look at, and this is one I actually have here because this one I'm kind of excited about, and I sort of feel very bullish about this set. Because if you look at the box price, which again, the lowest is 47, but the market is, 46, so pretty much right there. And you look at the price movement on this thing, and it's going, down in a hurry with a little bit of tick here at the end. But what you see, if you look at the set, is that, again, this is, here, I'll show you my copy of this here. So this is 1/3, or it might be 1/2, I don't know. I think it's a third of the Twilight Masquerade set, right? So what's in the Twilight Masquerade set? Well, the Greninja and the Eevee are the two most valuable singles in Twilight Masquerade, and they're both in this set, Crimson Haze. So it's kind of like you get all of the good stuff out of Twilight Masquerade, and it's one of the, cheapest boxes available from the SV era in Japanese. So it seems to me like it's a no-brainer to pick this up, because again, I do like to look at, what the peak of a box has been. That's 3 months ago. Okay, so yeah, that's what started out hot, drop, and then, spiked up a little bit at the end. But this feels to me like a box that dropped probably a little too much. And if Japanese products are going up at all, the ones with the huge hits, the Greninja, the Magikarp, things like that, are going to be, I think, the ones that are going to go up the fastest. So the fact that this one's pretty depressed still seems to me to be a real opportunity. So I'm excited to add this to the collection, and maybe open some stuff, but just kind of hang on to it and see. Interestingly, the Greninja has no cards for sale. That's another thing is, TCG Player, only recently added Japanese sets to their index here, but I think that is a huge step for the success of Japanese stuff in the U.S. market, because this is really what, certainly investor types are looking at on a daily basis to track price movements, to get a sense of interest and, a potential for sets. And so to have, excuse me, all of the Japanese sets now listed here is a huge deal, I think. So again, and the other thing is, if you open stuff from Japan and you're pulling these cards out, well, some of these cards are not super available. So you could, if you have this Greninja, you post it here and you're going to be the only one. So kind of name your price sort of thing, I think. If we look at the English Greninja, by the way, this one is now, again, above 300. I think it dropped below. The one I pulled is off to grading right now. But anyways, that's Crimson Haze. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you want to see a few more of these boxes kind of up close, but this is Ancient Roar, which is 2/3 of Paradox Rift. We've got Wild Force, Temporal Forces. By the way, a little kind of anecdotal story is that I feel like the opportunity to sell this stuff, like at card shows, if that's your thing, or at, just like Facebook Marketplace. But to do be able to just sell this stuff locally, I think is a big opportunity. When these things were like, I don't know, $80 a box, they were selling for $110 at my local card shop, and I was listening to the guy talk to somebody who was asking about this, and he said they sold like 100 boxes a day of this stuff at that $110. And again, you go online, you see it selling for $80, but I think for a while, until this stuff takes off in the U.S. market, people are not going to want to order this stuff on eBay, because I think there's a sense that maybe it's been somehow tampered with, and there's not a ton of people selling on eBay. There's more and more, but a lot of people don't buy on eBay. And if you don't buy this stuff on eBay, you're not getting it from Amazon, you're not getting it from Walmart, you're not getting it from Target, but you probably have heard about it because you check Poke Beach or something like that, and you've seen a lot of people open this stuff on YouTube, and it's easy to become aware of this. It's harder to get your hands on it if you're not super comfortable ordering from random online sellers that tend to have this stuff. So right now there's a market gap where I think a lot of people know about this. They want it. They're not going to buy it unless it shows up in their Facebook like marketplace feed, or they see it at the local card shop, at which point they're probably willing to pay a premium for it just to have it. It's also super fun to open this stuff. So yeah, so I think there's, some opportunities there to sell that stuff if you, kind of are wanting to figure out a way to go into business for yourself and sell this stuff. If you, if you do card shows at all, or I actually have thought about just going to my card shop and saying like, what are you buying those boxes for? If you sell them for $110, and they were sold out like, a day later, and that was like a week and a half ago, and they don't have any since then. So I think they can make an easy, like $30 profit on that if they get them for $80, and I got mine for 62. So maybe I would just sell them all to them. But in any event, that's Japanese. I just keep thinking like, the lack of accessibility of a lot of this stuff. By the way, I think, so here's something interesting, right? Like on every one of these boxes, it says for sale in Japan only, which I find interesting, but also very, I think, telling, right? Because Pokemon, the company, Pokemon Japan, like, doesn't really want these ending up in U.S. consumers' hands. But U.S. consumers may not really give a frick about, that. And they may, as this stuff gets more and more available and more places are selling it. But again, you'll never have to compete with the big box stores on this stuff because Pokemon does not want to sell it to them. So as I think, more people become familiar with this, as more of it gets out into the U.S. market, there may be a significant increase in the demand from the U.S. market for Japanese Pokemon. And if so, that's like a pretty drastic change to the market for Japanese products, which currently, probably 90% of them are consumed by Japanese consumers. But, how much bigger is the U.S. than Japan? Monumentally bigger. It's the biggest, dollar-wise, it's the biggest market in the world, of course. People-wise, it's of course not, but it's huge. And if suddenly, a significant number of U.S. Pokemon collectors decide Japanese is where it's at, well, there's not enough supply for that to happen. There's plenty of supply right now where it's mostly just interesting to Japanese buyers, and the occasional brave Pokemon collector in the U.S. But if that were to change, if more U.S. collectors and investors suddenly started to say, well, geez, I like Japanese cards, like their quality, I like that they're cheaper right now, and maybe always will be, they're gonna, need a lot of supply, and, it may not be so easy to get that, in which case prices are going to go up. I don't think the stuff will ever be as expensive, on a per card basis as the English stuff. But it could go up significantly from where it's at now, where it's kind of, sitting at basically, its launch price in the case of most of these sets, notwithstanding Searching Sparks and our friend here, Terrestrial Festival. So, anyways, so I'm going to figure out a price on these things, put them up. If you are smart, you'll go and buy this box right now at hotcardboard.com. If you buy 2 of them, I think you'll get free shipping. But this is what the packs look like. And there's 10 packs in there. Sorry, I had to hit the cough button. So 10 different packs from the SV era. Basically everything up until Super Electric Breaker, which I got after I made these, in one little bundle there. So yeah, I had to figure out what the pricing on these is, and hopefully this will be a nice, fun product for anybody interested in kind of dipping their toes into Japanese stuff. I know me and the kids have opened a number of these. I probably should have figured out the pricing before we started doing that, because I sort of imagined that it was going to be pretty cheap, and you know, I'd be saving money by letting the kids open, you know, one of these instead of a 151 booster bundle or something like that. So maybe I've been giving away too much stuff. It's too valuable, but that's alright. We're having fun. So there you go. Japanese Pokemon. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Hey, there's a topic that you would love to hear me opine about, or some aspect of my you know, business or collection that you'd like to hear about, please leave a comment. I'd love to get your feedback and get ideas and see what the folks who watch this channel are interested in hearing about, and be happy to try to make something to meet those demands. But all right, folks, that's what we got for today. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there. We'll see you all next time. Until then, stay relaxed. Bye now.